Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avocet Integrated Marketing, and I'm so excited to have Ricardo Cabrera join us right now. Ricardo is a business professional and real estate agent. He focuses on helping with wealth building matters, from assisting people in buying or disposing of their home, their most important asset, to assisting on business matters through the Latino Chamber of Commerce right here in Longmont, and coaching on NAREP 10 disciplines on wealth creation. Ricardo believes in working hard, living on less than what you make, and investing the difference with the ultimate goal of reaching wealth. In this presentation today, we are going to learn about living below your means, saving and investing for retirement, and avoiding debt. Sharing real-life scenarios, Ricardo will illustrate what it takes to create wealth that enables you to arrive prepared and live comfortably during retirement. This is a 60K foot, high-level, easy-to-understand presentation intended to get you thinking, and we're going to do it a little bit differently today. We are going to present in 3 different segments, so start your questions coming immediately about 15 minutes in, 10 minutes in. We'll have a quick break, ask questions, and then continue through the rest of the presentation. Ricardo, go ahead and take it away.
Well, thank you, Lori, for having me today, and thank you for Longmont Startup Week. This is my 4th year presenting here, so I'm excited to be back. So let me start by sharing my screen. There's a presentation. This is a financial matters thing, so numbers are important. So let's have a presentation here. And let's see, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, and then I'm going to start by talking about my favorite quote. Let's see, presentation. For what it means, for my favorite definition for happiness. And it reads like this: happiness comes from having the ability to take care of ourselves and our families, to have friends and time to spend with them, and to have the freedom to do what motivates you. This is a guy, Jose Mujica, brilliant man. Look it up on the internet. You'll learn a lot about living frugally from this man. When I read this, I read that happiness is a style and a way of living. It's not a destination, but it's a way of living. I also read and understand that happiness and wealth are relatives. They go hand in hand. They're like second cousins. You know, they're not directly related, but it does help you with your happiness. So today we're going to talk about wealth creation, and I am going to talk and explore 3 of the NAREP 10 disciplines. And those 3 disciplines are to live below your means, to invest in real estate and the stock market, and to know your net worth. I'm going to do this by sharing a set of progressive scenarios in each of the 3 topics that will help you understand and show you what it looks like to reach and survive retirement. My goal here is really to plant seeds, to show you, maybe a paradigm shift, so you can start thinking about this a little differently than you do now. All the examples that I'm going to give here are the numbers we're going to show, and I'm going to talk about here, are for example purposes, right? So you're going to have your own situation, you have your own scenario, and that's okay. My goal here is for you to think about these things, go home, do some homework, put some numbers to paper, and come up with your own circumstance and start thinking about your own plan. Let's start with some key words. Here we go. And in business, we would call these guys the KPIs, right? The key performance indicators. And in our case, for personal finances, we're going to talk about these terms that really are, in essence, the tools and indicators that tell you how you are in the road to your own retirement planning, right? So let me just set up the definitions here, and I'll go in order. So expenses, we all know about those. This is what I consider our standard of living, and this include living expenses like rent and utilities and transportation and food. Then you have your wants, which is maybe you want to go on vacation and go to the movies. And then you have your savings. And yes, you have to plan for those. It's part of your expenses. Set savings aside, and you really don't spend that money, but it's got to be part of your plan. Okay, so investments. Investments in this example today are things that throughout, while you're getting to retirement, is the money you're saving. When you're in retirement, it's going to be your passive income. And these are items like in the stock market, your 401k, your Roth IRA. I put in here Social Security. That's also a pension that you pay for whether you want to or not. Real estate, maybe you buy a second home which you rent. These are all investments. Okay, P&L. P&L is also a business term, profit and loss, and it's no more than the difference of what you make versus what you spend. You get a result. If the number's positive, you have money to save. If the number's negative, well, you're borrowing from somewhere, and we don't want that in this ever. And then your net worth also could be a business term. In the business world, net worth would be the balance sheet of a business, and basically it tells you what you're worth, how much you have altogether. Financial institutions will call this your number, and we all have a number. And we'll explore that a little bit as we go along. So, guys, this is a good time for you to find a paper, find a pen, take some notes down, and you can start by writing my phone number, write my email address, and a website there, mywealthbeing.com. I have some spreadsheet tools that you can use to explore this topic we're going to talk about today. And then you have my number. Please feel free to call me anytime. I'm available for me to help us and assist on these concepts that we're talking about today. Okay, so to the topic at hand. I'm going to make a couple of assumptions throughout the presentation, and these assumptions go like this. I'm starting work at 25. I am going to retire at 65, and I'm going to die at 95. This is also important when you're planning retirement. So this gives me 40 working years for accumulation. You see that word up there on the screen. That gives you 30 years for living in retirement. This is your distribution. This is when you're spending your money that you saved and invested throughout your accumulation years. And then we have our net worth. There's a whole section about that. And again, these figures are arbitrary and intended as an example. So with that, I am going to start with distribution. And the distribution years are, once you retire, right? So I'm 65, dying at 95. I have 30 years of surviving retirement. And the only goal here is that we get to the end before running out of money, right? Better yet, if you have some extra, then we call that generational wealth. That means that you can leave money for your descendants to help them get started in their retirement or in their life, whatnot. So how do you think about retirement? So you've stopped working, and how do you envision retirement? Here's how I envision it. I would like to be self-sufficient, meaning that I'm not going to have to borrow money from my kids or anybody else so I can survive my retirement. I'd like to have time for my friends and family. Be healthy, of course, because wealth without health is meaningless. That's another one of the NARP 10 principles. And of course, the ability to do what motivates you. That could be, be a golf coach if you like, get a hobby job, go travel, whatever that is. So with that, let's start with the first scenario that I have to share with you. So, and it goes like this. You're 65, dying at 95. Let me see if I can get rid of that top screen over here. That's 30 years. So you have no income. You're not making any money. Your expenses are $30,000 per year. You don't have any money invested. I'm assuming in this slide, in the scenario one, that you're renting the house that you're living in. your P&L is $30,000 a year, right? So I'm not making anything. I'm spending $30K. My P&L is $30K. I'm also assuming that I have $300,000 saved in the bank. This is my net worth. So simple math calculation. It cost me $30,000 a year to live. I have $300,000 saved. This is going to last me for 10 years. A little bit short of the mark that we are looking for, right? We're looking for 30 years. As we go along, guys, please ask questions, ask it often. I'm going to have a break here in a moment, so I will answer the questions that come along. So be patient, and we're almost there. So scenario number 2. I still have no income. I own the house that I live in this case, so my expenses are about half as much, $15,000 a year. I still don't have any investments. My P&L at this point is $15,000, right? That's all it costs me to live. I still have the $300,000, my net worth. And in this case, that money is going to last me for 20 years. We're getting a little closer to our goal, but not there yet. All right, scenario number 3. I am retired, 65, living to 95. I do have a hobby job now. I make $5,000 a year. My expenses are still $15K, so my P&L in this case is $10,000, right? So I'm spending $15K per year. I'm making $5,000 per year. My total bottom line is $10K. At this point, my $300,000 are going to last me for 30 years. So success. This was our goal all along because that's our retirement years. And we're getting closer to the mark in this case. All right, scenario number 4. I am making $5K with my side job. Cost me $15,000 a year for expenses. In this case, I have some investments. It could be your Social Security income. It could be a pension. Maybe you have an apartment that you rent, and this is bringing you $12,000 per year. And your P&L in this case is now $2,000 per year to the positive side. So now you're not spending money, you're making money every year because your scenario is set up just right. So if you have $300,000 saved in the bank, well, now you're accumulating money. This means that this money is going to last you for a little bit longer, and you may even have some money to leave to your descendants, an inheritance. Maybe you can pay for a wedding for somebody or whatnot. So that is our scenario number 4. All right. So our keywords here again are expenses, income, investments, P&L, and net worth. We're going to see that throughout all the examples. They are the keywords and things that you want to count for all along. Lori, do we have any questions so far?
We do have some. It sounds so basic.
Yes.
But what is wealth?
That's a good question. So let me answer you that question with a story. Or a question with a question. What is the difference between being rich and being wealthy?
We just had this conversation at dinner last night, interestingly enough.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I would like to hear what your definition or how you see it yourself is. I'll tell you what my story is here, and it's like this. So being rich is just having a lot of money. Anybody can be rich. Being wealthy is having enough money saved that will allow you to keep your standard of living for the rest of your years.
Right.
So if I know that my living standard of living is $15,000 a year, and if I have enough money to maintain that until I die, then I'm wealthy. This really takes on for yourself personally, and it elevates you into a place that is really happiness or stress-free. If you know that you're going to maintain your standard of living forever, it elevates you into a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We came to the agreement that wealth just meant less worry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's a nice side effect of
Yeah.
knowing that you can live how you like to until you're until you're dead, until you
Right.
expire.
Couple more questions here. Why is 20% the goal for savings?
That's a good question. So we hear this a lot, right? All the experts tell you, you have to save 20% of what you make, and that's a safe number. And I'll tell you why. So whatever your standard of living is, in this example today, we're using $30K per year. If you're saving 20% of that for a certain amount of time, for 20 years or 30 years, you're going to be able to amass the wealth that you need to maintain that same standard of living for your retirement years. That's why. If you have 10%, you may come up a little short. If you have more, well, even better, because then you may retire not at 65, but maybe at 55.
Right.
And that's nice.
Another question here. What is a good go-to ratio for a good financial plan between needs, wants, and savings? You've established 20%
Right.
or more, but where do you plant the other ones?
That's a great question, and thank you for that. So a standard ratio that will allow us to fulfill everything we're talking about today is it's simple. It's a 50, 30, 20. So generally, you're going to spend 50% on your needs, which are, in this case, the expenses. Needs equal standard of living, rent, utilities, transportation, health, all your needs, the things that you need to have in order to survive, food and water. Wants is 30%, right? And then your investments or your savings is 20%. So the ratio is 50, 30, 20. Some people will say, well, how do I do that? I mean, I can't afford that. And the answer is always yes, you can afford that. What you have to do is do some homework, put a budget together, figure out where your numbers are, and you are going to see yourself and divide between needs and wants where you can become more frugal, right? Maybe you don't go to Europe on a vacation. Maybe you can do a staycation and save enough so your ratios work out. You have to be in the positive. That's an imperative. You can't save if you're upside down, right?
Right. And last question, you touched on this, but what is the relationship between wealth and happiness, and are they related or not?
Well, I could show you my first slide again, and really they are related. They're like second cousins, right? Because I do know a lot of people that have nothing and are uber happy, and conversely, I know people that are rich, but they're not there. They're not happy. So being wealthy, having enough money to survive your good years and bad years, as well as retirement, takes stress away. You mentioned that. It gives you the peace, the personal peace to know that you're okay. I can do what motivates me. Maybe you want to go golfing every other day, and that's fine. Whatever it is.
That's great. I think we're ready to move on.
All right, let's go to the next section. The next section is the accumulation years. So the accumulation years are 40 years. So that means you started working at 25, and then you're working until 65. When you retire, that's 40 years. So our goal in this example today is to get to $300,000. That was the example number that we used at first. That's what in this case we're calling my number. And this should always be in your radar, right? When you're doing your homework, when you're writing numbers down, you should know your radar. I mean, if you do your budget and your monthly expenses are, $5K, and you multiply it by 12, your yearly expenses are $60K, then, that's a good starting number, This still has to balance, and that's up to you to make it happen. So 40 years. So how do you think about working towards retirement? Same answer as before. I want to be self-sufficient, right? I want to have time for friends and family. I want to be healthy, and I do want to have the ability to do what motivates you. In this case, while you're building, maybe you're building a family as well. And then in that case, it could be spend time with your kids, maybe go on vacation. This is all part of the plan. All right, so the slides there are not really showing everything. Yes, they are. They're just a little offline, which is okay. So scenario number one for accumulation years, for the phase of accumulation. you are 25, retirement at 65, that's 40 years. You are just out of college, you have time and money, no more homework. Your first job is making you $24,600. Your living expenses are $25,000. So in this case, your P&L is $2,400 upside down at the end of the year. So you're losing money every year. This means that you are spending $200 per month more than what you're making. Now, there's only one way this can happen, right? And usually it's debt. So credit cards, personal loans, whatever you want to call it. So here's a number for you. If you're borrowing from a credit card $200 per month for 40 years at 15% interest, right? A credit card usually loans you money anywhere between 15 and 28%, so we'll use the bottom number. You're going to have a total debt of over $6 million. Wow. It could be more, but for the example today, and the moral of the story here is don't borrow money, do a budget, make sure at least that you're balancing your numbers so you're not borrowing money, right? It's well known that capitalism, it's a business. I mean, businesses rely on you spending more money, and they don't care if it's more than what you make or not. And they advertise, magazines, TV commercials, they're always convincing you to buy something that you may or may not need. It's a want. And, even worse, if you can't afford it, they'll loan you the money. So that's one of those personal things that we all learn. Everybody learns it at some time in your lifetime. So in this particular example, at 25, this guy still hasn't seen the light. But he does soon, because on my scenario number 2, he's turned 35. Now he's got 30 years to accumulate wealth. In this case, our individual has seen the light. He makes a little bit more, $30,000 a year, and his expenses now match his income, $30,000 a year. His P&L is zero. He's not saving any money. And therefore, if he continues this for 30 years, he's still going to have zero. At least he's not going to be in debt, which is a good step, a better place to be in. But we're still not close to our $300,000 number that we're looking to get to, right? Our accumulation years. All right, scenario number 3. So I'm 35, retiring at 65. I have 60 years to accumulate. I'm still making $30,000 per year, but I was able to make some adjustments in my standard of living on my budget, and now my expenses are $27,600, right? So this means I am saving a total of $2,400 per year. That's $200 per month. If I save and invest this amount of money, $200 per month, for 30 years at 8% interest, this is going to grow to $300,000. Ding, 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 my buddy would say. That's what we're looking to do. Saving $200 a month is not really that hard. I mean, for some people, that's their Starbucks budget. Some people go to the movies and to dinner 4 times, per month. Maybe you could go twice instead of 4 times. There's a lot of ways to get $200 to squeeze $200 out of your budget. Scenario number 3. All right, so scenario number 4 goes like this. I'm still 35, retiring at 65. I'm still making $30K, but now I own my house. My expenses are still the same, $27,600. I do have a side job now, so maybe I bake cookies, or my wife bakes cookies that we sell at Christmas, or maybe I Airbnb a bedroom in my house, or whatever. There's a lot of ways, a lot of side jobs you can do. I'm a golf coach, and they pay me a little bit of money, and that's how I make my side money. I help the community, and I love watching kids grow, so feels good. P&L now grows to $6,000 per year, so that means that I'm making $30K, I'm making $33,600 with my side job. I'm spending $27,600. I am saving $500 per month, and I am saving, therefore, $6,000 per year. In this particular case, That's 20%, a little bit less than 20%. But if I save this amount of money for 30 years at 8% interest, I am going to accumulate $745,000, which is generational wealth. This is more than what I'm going to need with my current standard of living. All right, so again, keywords are expenses, income, P&L, and net worth. I guess, do we have any questions?
We do. One of the big questions is, and there are a few here, how can you make 8% by investing your money?
That's a great question. I get that question a lot because 8% seems like a lot to make year over year, year over year. So let me make a differentiation. Savings and investment are two different things, right? The savings is the money you have left over month by month. So we had $200 in one of the slides here, $500, 20% on another slide. This money, you're going to put it into an instrument, into a vehicle that will allow you to grow your money into something bigger. And it's going to be real estate or the stock market, right? So historically, the stock market has grown to, over the past 100 years, at about 8% to 11% per year, right? Depending who you ask, right? So you also hear, so here's another dichotomy. You hear people of, I bought Google, 30 years ago and now I'm rich. Okay. But the other story is that I bought X company in the stock market and they went bankrupt. Now I'm poor. I lost all my hard-earned money. You don't want to lose money that you've saved because, well, that's the opposite of investing, right? If you go to the stock market, every brokerage house has products designed for the general public. That means if you're not a stock expert and you're not going to do homework every day and figure out where you're going to put your money and take it in and out just in time, well, likely you're going to lose your money. This is like a lottery ticket. They all have products that are specifically designed for people that are not experts. So they have products, for example, retirement products. I'm going to retire in, if it's, where are we now? 2021, in 30 years is 2051. So I can go look for their 2051 retirement product. It may be an ETF, it may be a mutual fund, and these are all words that you can look up, ask the phone, they'll tell you all about it. Ask the phone for ETF, mutual funds, do some research. This is not rocket science, little common sense, and you can educate yourself. That's the best thing you can do to learn about these things. Anyway, if you buy this product, they have professional experts managing these funds to make sure that they invest it appropriately until you retire, and then this money will most likely grow at 8% or higher. Do some homework. It's not really that hard. Real estate, on the other hand, is also an investment vehicle where if you buy the house that you're living in, right, you can buy a house for as little as 3% of the value of the house. And it's an investment because it grows two ways. It grows because the house increases in value every year, and the loan goes down every month that you pay your mortgage. You pay your mortgage, and it's like forced savings. Every time you pay your mortgage, you're paying yourself. You're paying your loan down. And over time, this is going to grow to 8% or more. So it's not hard. The specific reason why I preach, or the NAREB 10 preaches stocks and real estate, is because they are the safest and best ways for you to invest your money. The active word here being the safest.
Right. What are some good options or plans to close the gap if someone has started their retirement plan a little bit later in life?
Yes, well, the strategy of investing is the same whenever you start. I mean, the right time to start investing for retirement is now, whether you're 25 or you're 45. The only difference is that in this case, time is your friend, right? So the concept of compounding and compound growth makes it really easy to start saving, at $25, $200 a month and end up with $745K, right? If you're 45, you may have to start with a little bit more. The unfortunate truth of starting late is that you may have to sacrifice something. Ultimately, you may have to find a way to get maybe not $500 per month surplus or savings. It may be $1,000, right? You may have to work until, not 65, but 68 or 70 or whatnot. The formula numbers are there for you to resolve. So, maybe you don't have two cars, maybe you have one or whatnot. There's a lot of ways to do it. It's all a personal conversation that you have yourself with your family and see how far you want to go. We have something funny going on the screen here right now.
Right, I think our Zoom just went down.
Welcome back. Live television.
Sorry about that, everyone. Hopefully you can join us right back, or hopefully you stayed there and you clicked right back on the link. But we're here. Ricardo, we are just finalizing really that second section of the presentation today, which we're going to get up here in just a moment, and we will go ahead and continue on. Some great insights that you're sharing with us today about some of the need for really planning much earlier in life regarding investments and starting your the savings to really ultimately create an incredible retirement. And here we are. So continue into section 3, if you would.
All right. So I still don't know if we can see the slides yet.
We look good.
We look good. All
Yeah.
right. So net worth is the next. Net worth is the next section, and net worth basically is, we keep talking about this number, $300,000, right? So in the example it's our number. So the question is, how do I know my number? How do I figure out my number? What's the math behind it? And net worth, in business terms, it's called the balance sheet, right? So every business, if you're going to get a grant, if you're going to go get money, borrow money, whatever, they're going to ask you for your P&L and your balance sheet, which is the same thing we're covering here today. It's just for personal purposes. And for personal purposes, the balance sheet is called net worth. And it's really simple. It's like this. You're going to create 2 columns on your spreadsheet or on a napkin or whatever, however works best for you, and you're going to put a list of all your assets in one column. Your assets are things like the value of your house, the value of your car, if you have furniture, arts, jewelry, anything, you want to put conservative numbers, so I mean, it's like the search for the truth. You don't want to inflate stuff that is not there, just so you can be realistic. And then on the other column, the second column, you're going to put in a list of your debts. So if you have a house, likely you have a mortgage. That's your debt. If you buy a car on a loan, well, you're going to have a loan. That's a debt. Any credit card debt, personal loans, anything that's taking money out of your pocket monthly, if you owe it, that's your debt. So you subtract one from the other one, and the bottom line is your net worth. So here we go with the scenarios. Scenario number 1 goes like this. So this time scenario number 1 says you're 25 years old. You don't have a home yet that you haven't bought. You don't have a real estate investment. You do have a car, and you have a $12,000 loan on your car, right? So the columns don't line up on my screen here, but you'll have to forgive me for that. So you have a car, a $15,000 car, and $12,000 loan. You don't have any investment, and you do have a credit card debt of $5,000. Okay, so if you add up all your asset columns here, he's going to add up to $15K. And then you add up your debts, and that's going to add up to $17K. You subtract one from the other one, and it says that you are upside down by $2,000, right? So in this case, at 25, which is a common occurrence, your net worth is less than 0, right? So you owe money, you owe more than what you have. Okay? All right, so scenario number 2. This is more of a chronological example. So you're 35, you've gotten your financial house in order, You were able to save enough money to give a 3% down payment for a home, a $300,000 home, and your loan in this case is $290,000, right? About $10,000 worth of down payment. You still don't have a real estate investment. Your car is now paid off, and it's worth $9,000. Okay? You don't have a credit card debt anymore because you were able to pay that. So you're going to add up now your asset column, and that's going to add up to $314,000. And then your debt column, you add that up, and it's going to be adding up to $290,000. This gives you a total net worth of $24,000. So at 35, you've righted the ship, and you are on your way to healthy retirement, financial. All right, so scenario number 3. Now we're 45. My $300,000 home has grown in value to $404,000. My debt for the home, so my mortgage, has gone down because I've been paying it every month, so my loan is now $223,000. I still have my $9,000 car because I'm frugal, and the car is really an expense. In no way and in any universe is a car an investment. It's always an expense. I was able to put into my savings account $5,000, into my investment stock market $5,000. All right, and I paid off my credit card debt. So I did that at 35. So where are we at? Okay, so you add up all your assets, and they add up to $460,000 now. You add up all your debts, and they add up to $223,000 for a total net worth now of $237,000. Wow. I mean, every time I see this, I impress myself. I impress myself about the numbers. I mean, who could think that you could have that much money saved up over 20 years, 30 years of 20 years in this case, just by investing the right way. So let me tell you 2 little assumptions, or two real numbers about this example. Historically, real estate increases in value at 3% per year. Historically. Boulder County recently is like way above that, but we're not counting that because historically, and this is a conservative example, 3% per year, that's what your house will increase. And in this case, that's exactly the rate of increase that I'm using. I'm also assuming that on your investments, right? So your stock market, cash money investments, you are putting in $200 per month, not $5, which would be nice, and that it is growing at 8% per year at that rate. Okay, so again, at 45, your home went up from $300K to $404. Your bank account went from $5,000 to $47K, and your debt, your mortgage is still very manageable, which is your mortgage loan. It's the only debt that you have, which is, in my mind, the only reasonable debt to hold in your portfolio. That and maybe education, but you have to be careful with that because it can grow out of hand really quick. That's a topic for another day, by the way, education debt. It's a national conversation nowadays.
It's a big one.
Yeah. Okay, so next scenario. So now we're 55 years old. My $300,000 home has grown to $546,000. My loan went down to $129K. I bought a second home, which I'm renting. It's a $300,000 home, and I put down 20% because I could. My money and my finances allowed me. I have a $240,000 loan. I still have a $9,000 car. No credit card debt. So if you add up your asset column, it's going to add up to $997,000. If you add up your debt column, it's going to add up to $369,000 for a total net worth of $628K. So we've reached our $300,000 number. We've surpassed our $300,000 ultimate goal. But as you can see, this is really not unreachable to anybody. It's very, very doable the way that it's presented here, and it's real numbers, right? And all you guys can do it. All it takes is a little planning and a little math, some tools and strategies. All right, so our final scenario here is 65. We've reached our retirement year. My $300,000 home has grown to $737,000. I know the slides are a little confusing. They're offline here, but your home is now paid off. It's been at least 30 years. That's the standard mortgage loan. It's a 30-year loan. You can get 15-year loans, and they're all good. The faster you pay your debt, the better. Your $300,000 home, second home that you bought 10 years ago, is now worth $400,000, and its loan is worth $184K. You were able to buy yourself a nicer car because you've worked hard all 30 years. You saved, lived frugally, so now you have a $20,000 car. Your bank account, your investment, continuing the $200 a month, that you're adding, growing at 8% per year, has grown to $352,000 plus. Okay, so you add all that up, all your assets up, that is about $1.5 million worth of assets. Your debts are down to $184,000, and that gives you a total net worth of $1.3 plus million. Okay, so that's at 65, and you can take it from there. At this point, if you I had another example here. If you continue this way, by the time you expire, you're going to have a lot of generational wealth that you can share with the family, with your family. So keywords in this case are assets and debts, investments, which all equal your net worth. Questions?
Okay, there are so many great insights that you've shared with us today, and I've got some big questions for you.
Yes, ask questions. I'm going to put my name and phone number here on the screen so you guys can take it down and ask questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ricardo. Social Security.
Yes.
Where is it going?
Well, you mean in general?
Well, I mean, can people rely on it?
Well, I would have to say that the answer is yes. I mean, the government is not going to allow Social Security to go bankrupt or upside down as much as you hear in the news. Social Security, you have to assume that it's there. You can prepare for otherwise. And in all the examples that I put in here, Social Security is listed as one of the many investments that you can have. Not the only one. In most of the examples, actually, investments did not assume that you were getting Social Security. But you are. If you are getting it, and if it still survives by the time you retire, then good for you, and good for your planning. So you can plan as you believe, right? But it's just one of four, so it's not the only one.
Right. My next question has a lot to do with the psychology behind saving. And you and I were talking about this in our brief intermission that was completely unplanned. But there's a wonderful book, I read it about 23, 24 years ago, called The Millionaire Next Door.
Right.
And basically the premise behind the book, everyone should read it. And really what you're sharing with us today are a lot of tips that are talked about in that book. And the psychology is living below your means.
Right.
And the tough part of that is the show me up side of what's, the psychology of, I want the new car, not the used car. My whole attitude is let the person buying the new car take the hit. I don't want to take the hit. There's a lot of great tips in there, but a lot of it is, buying a home based on one person's salary, not a dual salary, so your expense is less. And if anything happens like this thing called a pandemic, you can still stay in your home. What are some more ideas that you can share with our audience today on ways that they can live below their means?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the psychology of saving, I call it the standard of living. And, to be blunt, the standard of living is not defined by what you want it to be. It's defined by how much you make, period. right? So if you're making $30,000 a year, you shouldn't live on any more than that. That may mean a couple of things. Yeah, you may have to make some sacrifices, like not have the new car, buy a car with cash, like, not have a long vacation. Maybe you can't pay for your kids' college, I mean, there are a lot of tough questions that you have to ask yourself on, what my standard of living and how I want to see myself in the future. So if you think of yourself, the future you, that's always going to help you decide questions today, right? So future you may say, I don't want my kids to be my retirement plan. That's a biggie. You're right. I don't want to be my kid's bank account today. That's also a biggie. That's a very personal thing. Of course, the community historically or family generational tradition says, well, I have to pay for my kid's college. Well, maybe not. If you're upside down every month, then that's a tough question. Personally, I don't know any kid that paid for their own college and didn't make it in life.
Right.
It's a life lesson. On the other hand, I know kids that had everything paid for and they are not making it today because of an unrealistic psychological expectation. Your first house is not your dream house. Maybe you buy a little apartment that you can afford with your salary, not the 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a yard right off. That might be your second or third home. Of course, in my example, I use real estate or your home as an example, but you can buy and sell a home every 3 or 4 years and upgrade every time as the value in your home increases, your net worth increases. Magically, the banks will loan you more money, and it all works. It's all a juggling act. Net worth, income, debt, all plays into the hands of the your personal economy, where you can maybe borrow more money for a home. You do have to disconnect yourself from the capitalistic consumerism that this country, the United States, teaches us from the time we're little kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's ingrained in our DNA, and it's really hard to break this.
Right.
Because you don't have to have a nice car to be cool. You don't have to have a big house to be accepted anywhere. And you just have to realize that and understand that really living below your means just that.
Right.
If you make so much, you just have to find a way to live on less.
And that's a wrap for us this morning. Ricardo, thank you so much. Incredible insights that you've shared with us. And we look forward to seeing you all this afternoon. We've got a great run of show coming on deck here soon. Kimberly McKee, President and CEO of the Longmont Downtown Development Authority, is going to be up next. Thank you all so much.